All right, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are going to continue our look at this commercial that we've been looking at in the past few videos, but this time, completely different location, same house. Let's jump into it. Now, if you are a Patreon supporter of this channel, you will have already seen multiple videos on this. You'll have seen where we went over the storyboards, where we got two people having a conversation, and we got a couple of close-ups. Then we have the actual location. We walk through exactly what we were going to do. Now, today, we're going to test. Did it come out as expected? So here is our final wide image. We talked about setting up the sofas in a very specific way, where we were going to bring the light from. And today is all about seeing what that did for coverage, which we can see, I think there's 5 examples in here. 5 different little setups in here, all that required some sort of adjustment as we went in, but nothing major. That was part of the plan, right? In the pre-production process, we said, well, what can we take up 45 minutes setting up for, and then quickly move through. So the order that we move through is going to make a big difference. And then the tools that we use to set up are also going to make a big difference. And which part do I harp on? And which part do other people do? Where does the gaffer come in? Where does the grip come in? These are the questions that hopefully we are going to answer today. Plus I've got a little behind the scenes, and that's it. So just a quick recap, I will put the video in the description below for what I was thinking before we actually shot this job, because that's the way I've done the order. I've done a video on the Tech Scout before I shot the job. Okay, so this is just me fleshing out my first thoughts and thinking, oh, this is what it would be nice to do based off of the storyboard. Now, if you remember the storyboard, this board here, and the conversation with the director on how the action is going to play out, that sets the tone for all of the lighting that we can do. Because what we decided is, there's no sofas here during the Tech Scout. We decide there's going to be a conversation between 2 people. We can have it going this way, where one person is sitting on a sofa here, one person sitting on a sofa here. Problem with that is what? Well, in the wide shot, you're not going to see this person over here. You're going to see their back if they were going to sit over here. And we need to see their front. Why? Because this isn't a narrative piece. We don't have 5 minutes to play this scene out. We've got, maybe 75 frames for them to go, wait, what's going on here? Oh, dad is talking to his son. So we need to see their faces in the wide shot. We cannot see someone's back and then flip to them. We don't have that many shots or that much time. If also the negative side of things is, well, you could just do a profile shot, right? If say they're sitting on a sofa here and our son is sitting on a sofa here, we could be over here shooting this way. What's the problem shooting this way? The problem is we're going to use this window for our key light. And if we don't have time or the space, this is not a studio, where in a studio, if this was like a studio wall, what we could do is have the wall end there, and then over the top, we could push in ambient, right? Or we could push in a little bit of a harsher key. That way, they could have like a little edge light on them, and we could pick them out of the background, right? Imagine that wall not there, lights over the top pointing down at them, because we don't want to blow out this window in the background. We know that at least I know visually, I want to play shears, and I want to play curtains on top of those shears so that the white walls in this room don't suck up all of our ambient. This is depressing, right? The guy's telling his son, I've got cancer, I'm not going to live. This is not a happy moment, and that plays perfectly into the aesthetic that I enjoy, right? I like darkness. My life isn't rainbows and lollipops, right? It's sad, and I want to impose that on everybody else. Smush it on them. You don't get to escape, right? You thought you were watching some happy cartoon in the afternoon on your television? Not with me around, bud, right? You're going to get depression and just smushed on you. That's the job. Anyway, okay, so what did we actually do here? And then what were some of the changes that we made that we didn't talk about in the pre-production process? Because you can't. Because there are things that will come up on the day where you're like, wait a second, this is not going to go as planned. First off, let's talk about the key light. Well, we'll talk about the orientation, okay? We put a chair here for Old Mate because we didn't have another sofa. We used the sofa that was already there. Why? It's easy on art department. If the director likes the sofa that's here, likes the look of it, guess what? Everybody makes it work. So they like the look of it. You throw a couple blankets on there. You're throwing pillows on there. Now, why are we throwing pillows? Because it's another layer. And why is it another layer? Because the light is coming from behind. If the light is smushing this way, it's not another layer, right? It flattens off. We don't want flat. Why? Because flat is boring. We want layers. So because we're backlighting this thing, light over here, backlight. See how we're hitting them in the back here with this light, and it's sort of coming towards the camera. I mean, it's not. We'll talk about that in a sec, but it's sort of coming towards camera. So we've got the layout here. Old mate, you can see his face a little bit, but it's down. Now, why is it down? It's pretty far down in the wide shot, right? Well, because this is like the 5th or 6th shot of this particular commercial when you do the montage ad altogether. So we've seen him before. So let's put him in the worst spot for the wide, and let's put the sun in the best spot. So he's getting the best light, right? You have to make a decision. Where do we put these two? Well, let's think about, during the course of the ad, have we already seen Old Mate? Yes, we have. He's the star. We've seen him many times. Do we need to see him in the perfect light? No. Why? And then this is where, I certainly would on set if I thought about it. I would cook up some story to tell to the agency or the creative director or the, whoever's there from the client. It's like, we can't really see him. And you'd be like, well, that's because there's a darkness on him, right? He has cancer. And this is me showing you he has cancer. That down, shadowy goodness. And the light is on the next generation, right? For a new hope. This is Luke Skywalker here, right? He's just about to save the world or the universe, whatever. Anyway, that's what you would say on set. Realistically, it's just like, well, I don't want to push any level this way because it's going to flatten it all off. And I don't want them in any other orientation for all the reasons that we talked about in the previous video. Don't want that. I want this orientation. So let's do it. Okay, what are we actually doing to make this work now on the day? We talked about we're going to key through this big window out here. And when I say key, we're going to push the biggest light source at Old Mate here and at this back wall over here. Okay, this takes by far the most amount of time to set up physically the lamp, then to angle it correctly. And to do that, you think, okay, well, what's the order of operation when you're actually on set to do this? Is it you put the key out there and then you put a stand in here and then you just angle it around in the background while everything else is happening? No, right? This isn't a fantasy land. You don't have all day to do this. You got to put up all of the lamps that you're going to put up have to be getting put up while all of the other people are getting ready. And while you're in here, like I start shifting this around and find the frame. Basically, you find the frame first. You're like, okay, this is the position. Then we're going to stick the sofa in position relative to the frame. How do you decide on the frame? Well, it's like, how much of the window do I want in there? I don't want no window because then it feels real claustrophobic. I want a little bit of window, but what's the most important part about a window in the frame? If you like the kind of stuff that I like. Well, the most important part, if we come over here to the behind the scenes, you'll be able to see. The most important part is that there is window. This is for a close-up shot. You can obviously see that the camera is much closer than the wide, but you don't want all of the window covered up by the sheer. So if we think about that wide shot, maybe like this is the edge of the frame, right? That's the edge of the frame of window that you can see. This curtain here, I didn't actually drag it over for the wide shot. This is for the close-up. For the wide, this is nothing but bare window. And what does that allow me to do? It allows me to keep the sheer that is in shot down, not blowing out, right? Not too hot. But it still allows me to get level all the way to where our kid is sitting over here. Okay, so that's the point, is you need to leave a little bit of room for the window to be completely clear so that it is not getting cut level-wise by the sheer. That's super important. If you make the mistake, and I have made the mistake, of setting up the shot first, or maybe not even setting up the shot, just lighting the scene first, and then you set the frame, and you realize, wait a sec, we can see the whole window. And what that means now is, instead of figure this is maybe 2 stops over where it would be if the light was shining through the sheer. Well, if I have to open up 2 stops or take out 2 stops of ND, what happens to this sheer is it goes from looking like coffee, sort of stained, to being nuclear, even on the Alexa, right? It's still going to look way, 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 way too hot. It is not going to be cool to get this amount of push into the room, and then it ruins all of my other ambient, right? The ratios are completely skewed. I want to keep the dark down ratio. So what do I do here? Order of operation. You set the frame. I say, okay, we move the sofa into place, then we get the actors to sit down while the lights are being built that you asked for on the prep in the tech scout process. And you're like, okay, that eyeline is going to work. They can bump out of there. Now let's talk about the lighting. Or while the lighting is going on, I'm like, this is a big empty area over here. If we look at the behind the scenes still of the tech scout, it's like there's nothing over here because we moved the sofa out of the room. It's just a big empty room. I'm standing in a doorway here. So it's like, well, let's get something to just take up space. Can we occupado space? Because I don't want just like them as the first thing in the frame. Why? Because that kills the depth. I want something between us and them. So we get the table, we set it up on pancakes because it's not the right height, and we get just the right level, and then we get these books, and you turn them, and we've probably tried, I don't know, 10 different objects here. It's like all of this is happening before that last 7 minutes that I always talk about. This is in like while they're getting the key light set up outside, while they're bringing in the neg, because this is all neg over here. The entire thing is closed off with black because it's a white room. I want this entire wall neg, and I want this entire wall negged. Okay, so we have a V of neg. That creates this shadow to camera. Okay, so we do all that while it's all getting set up. Now, we're going to play two different things in the background. We're going to play to him. That's one. And this is going to be slightly softened. So we're going to take a 4x frame right inside 4x frame, just out of the shot. That softens this back part on dad. And most importantly, it softens here on his face. Okay, now what we're not going to soften, and the reason we do it inside is because between the shear, then you have bare window, then you have 4x frame, which softens on him. Coming through the bare window is this level. Okay? This level, what is that? That's like a stop, at least a stop hotter than the face. Now we're starting to get somewhere. And why? Why didn't we put this? Because we could have. Why couldn't we put that there? Why didn't we put it in the middle of the conversation? Any takers? This is where your decisions actually matter, where the lamp doesn't matter, what brand of lens that you got doesn't matter, the camera doesn't matter. This choice actually matters for the final frame. Why did we put it on this side? Because we want to go light, light, dark, light. Dark over here, light here. Like we want that salt and pepper across the frame. If you go light here, then you're going dark, imagine this lit up, and then to his face, which is lit up. And then we're going dark here and dark here. It's not the same pattern across the frame. Do yourself a favor, just blur your eyes and look at this image. You should see, like it should look like a zebra pattern. That's the idea. That's what we're going for. And then, okay, last minute touches that didn't work out. Number one, again, there's haze all in this room, lots and lots of haze. Then the next thing that comes up is like, okay, well, the problem is the angle that we've had to use outside. Let's see if I can see it in the behind the scenes. The angle that we have had to use outside, actually you can see the 4x frame out there now. We've moved it outside because now for one of these setups, we were actually looking into the window, so we couldn't have it inside. Now that we are looking with the lamp over here this way, what ends up happening is in here, there's no level. Like nothing is coming this way because this is a wall over here. And there you can see my fancy hazer. Right? World's worst hazer. Jesus, that thing's bad. It takes like 45 seconds to turn off. Everybody hates it. So what am I talking about? Here, remember there's neg over here. There's no windows or anything. So the problem is this, like all of this here, that level, and this, and this, and then this. See that level there? That level is not coming from outside. Because we can't make it work with the angle, right? The angle is here and back here. So we need to do something about this. Now, we don't need to, but if you look at it and you're like, wow, man, it's a big swath of all the same contrast. Of like, it's just flat. How do we get rid of that and make it look halfway decent? Does it look halfway decent? You decide, right? It's quite fronty. It would have been, maybe if we would have reached around just a little bit more, it would have been slightly better, but we couldn't. So we've got our little LED source 4 number here, and we're just blasting it across the pillows and into their hands and then down here, right? That little pattern there. That's a light that's from inside. So if these guys were moving around, this would be very hard to pull off. It's only because they're sitting perfectly still that we can do this, right? That's the only reason you can actually play this. But other than that, it's exactly what we said on the tech scout. The only thing that I'm adding, besides the balancing of everything, it's like once everything gets set up, so the lamps outside are in the right spot, the lamp inside is in the right spot, and we've got the neg and the hazer is fired up, right? That's where, okay, that's like places everybody. We're about to do the orchestra. We're about to do the actual job, which is the balancing. And all hands on deck, let's, things you would be calling out here, be like, I want to see the ratio between what the window is giving me, this background, and this guy's face. Like, let's work on that first. then is this too hot relative to his face? Because I'm setting the exposure in the room. I'm setting the exposure at the very beginning. I'm setting the exposure to what I want it to be for ambient, because ambient is going to take the most amount of time to change. So in this example, I set the frame. I'm like, okay, this is the best spot for the frame. Talk to the director. Yes, we like this frame. We can both fit them in. Okay, good. Now, what do I want this wall to be? Well, once this 4K is fired up, it's like, okay, I want the wall to be a little bit darker. So I take the iris and I go down. I go from 2 to 2.8. I'm like, oh, 2.8, it's not enough. Then I scroll down. Oh, at 4, it looks good. Now, am I going to be shooting at T4? No, right? We're on the tribes here. I'm going to be shooting at T1.9, right? That's what I want to be shooting at. So how many stops is that? That's 2.8 and then 2. So I need 2 stops of ND. In the Mini LF, I know I can just drop the 0.6. So now I have lots of room to play with the ISO. I can't remember what we shot this at. This was probably either 1600 or 1280. Might be able to see it on the camera actually. There's lots of room to play with the ISO, but I know I want to be wide open and I want to be with a 0.6 in there. So boom, you hit the button. Now everything is set. Don't touch it again. What happens if you start touching the ND, or if you start touching the ambient that you have set for, is you're going to see some angry people on set. You're going to see the gaffer every time they come to the monitor be like, why does something keeps changing? Who keeps doing that? And it's because, or the first AC, like back in the old days, if you would try and rotate through filters as you were lighting, right? The first AC would be like, okay, you get 1 change. You don't get 2 changes. And then you do the second change and that's it. Like light it first, then decide on the ND. It's like, I get it. It's a pain to have to put that. If you're on the Venice or now the Mini LF, it's a little bit easier to do it, but still, you want to set it and then forget it. Don't touch it again because we've set for the ambient. We want to only work forwards. We don't want to have to work backwards. And readjusting the ambient while you're shooting, that's working backwards. And we don't want to do that. Okay, I think that's it. We set ambient, then we set key, then we set the neg based off what we want. This stuff is already all in place. Everything is balanced. Let's shoot. Okay, now where do we go from there? Like, what is the best path forwards? Well, the best path forward is definitely, shooting this guy's coverage. Does he look like he's ready for coverage? No. It's going to be not a huge change. It's going to be the bigger change. Easy just to go in here and shoot his stuff, right? So obvious thing would be, okay, we're going to go in, shoot all of his coverage. So what does that look like? Well, the first one looks like this. It's like, whoop, okay, we've gone in for the coverage. Do you notice anything different about this particular frame, right? It should be a hell of a lot different. Number one, look at the harshness. You don't see this when it's all cut together and graded. The harshness. See how hard this light is on his face? Well, now we can be inside the room with the softness even more and even be closer, and we can get a much better eye light, and we can play with his angle a little bit. So what do? We just bring in the 4x frame. Now that's going to change a little bit. What's also going to change is the angle of the background back here. See how we're also getting light on this side? That's only because if we didn't do that, if we kept the light where it was before, it just became way too boring, right? We just had lots of light over here and then nothing over here because there's nothing here in the room. There's actually nothing. But this is the size that we wanted for this back and forth between the dad and the boy. So you have to live with, well, how can we spice up over here? It's like it falls off enough, especially wide open, that, okay, let's just throw a little bit of light on that side. Still, it is slightly above what this key is, but not much. And then, if you were going to Hollywood slick this, right, then you would say, well, there's just a magic backlight that comes out of here and adds that bit. But we're not doing that. This is a little bit more also just for speed. So what are we adjusting here? We are adjusting where the 4x frame is and probably what the softness is on the 4x frame. Where the neg is, we probably brought in 2 floppies just here as opposed to relying on the neg that was in the room originally. And then we're playing with the angle of that light outside. Now you could either do that by moving the light outside, or if we come back here, because we're not seeing this window at all in this setup, we could just push these shears that way so more light gets on the background. Does that make sense? If we push those shears over, now we're in control. And that's what I'm saying. That's why curtains and shears are a cinematographer's best friend, because I don't need to ask anybody to do this. I can just walk over 5 steps, pull back the shears or push the curtain that way and be like, this looks better. Done. Now that's really hard to do if you have a team of like 5 people and you're trying to send information and filter through all the lines of communication necessary to do that. Way easier to just walk over there and be like, oh, I'll just move the shear. Do I like that? Do I not like it? I like it. It's like the more things, the whole reason, what are we doing the prep for? We're doing the prep so that on the day we can A and B as many different things as possible, because I want you to show me what's possible. I have confidence in my skill to be able to choose between A or B. Do I like A or do I like B? I definitely have likes and opinions, and I will voice them. I want to see as many different options as you can give me. If you're the gaffer, give me more. Like, give me another option. I don't know, give me a different eye light, give me a different, all of those things. If you can, if there's time. So I'm trying to A and B as many different things as I can, and the shears help there. Okay, what else did we do? I think from there, if we're just going to go in order, right? I think we probably did that. Then we did this one, and now you'll see that like we've completely changed the pattern for this light. It's no longer on that side at all. We've come way, way, way around, but it's still the same equipment that we were using before. We've just shuffled it over. And all that means we're shuffling in the room is 2 floppies, which are really close, and then the 4x frame of diffusion. That's it. And then this is being done through that curtain and shear thing that I just mentioned. So that's the conversation there. Nice, easy. Is it too shallow? Yeah, I mean, it's freakishly shallow, but that's the price you pay for going mini LF and wide open. Here, okay, now, why does this shot feel different? Number one, why is there more return here on his face as opposed to this one, right? Darker. Not as dark here. Is that a mistake? Kinda. Like, we should be in the same world. It's not here. Why? Because me holding the camera, I am now where the neg used to be. So now I can't take as much light away because I'm physically there. And especially that's why you should be wearing a black shirt on set and not something neutral, because I will bounce into this fill area, especially for lighting super moody. So that's why you see more openness here. And we're probably getting a little bit of return here too from the wall. You can see it's like a different color. But we couldn't have the 4x frame here, so that's why you also have the harsher shadow, right? Harsher shadow. And because we have a little bit of curtain in there, we have to maintain, or a little bit of shear, sorry. We have to maintain that color, which you can really feel the color in this one as opposed to the other two. And then here we had to get a little bit of level back on him. So we've got it's probably an electric poly over there, probably some sort of little LED number just to push at his face. Because even though the focus is on him, it's like we want a little bit of level on him so we're not losing him completely. But that is why. Does it match? Is it perfect? Probably not, but that's the reality. So what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to switch around to his stuff. Now, when you see his stuff, you'll be like, where did that light come from, Patrick? And you would be correct. It is strange that all of a sudden the light has come out of nowhere. And this is why this was the hardest setup of this commercial. If you followed all along with all the other ones, every other scenario, there hasn't been a moment where you could screw up a new variable. Anytime you add a new variable, you can screw it up. It doesn't look natural. This is that case, right? There is no light that we're going to put over here. There is no light that exists in this shot that we're going to use for this shot. So what is the job? What do we have to do? Well, the job is, number one, are we ever going to cut from here to this shot? Hopefully the answer is no. Like, hopefully we have something in between where we forget what that shot actually looks like, and then we come back here and like, ta-da! That's where the editor is your best friend. But for our scenario here, what we're trying to sell is that we want this hotspot hot enough to be like, maybe it could bounce back and like illuminate him. So that's the vibe that we are trying to sell. And here it's like, oh, maybe it just like there is a little bit of bounce, like right back into his face. And we shuffle the sofa a little bit closer. Like now we have complete, because we've never seen this way, this angle this far into the room, we have the ability to like shuffle the sofa that way. And why would we shuffle the sofa that way? So we don't see as much of the window, right? If we come around more and make it more flat on him this way, we're going to see more of our window. And we don't want to do that. We definitely don't want to do that. We also want a little bit of highlight in the background. So this highlight, even though it looks like it's coming from outside, that's actually coming from our little slash light that was there before. It's now doing this inside, okay? This is actually coming from outside. So that now is our outside light. This is our slash. We've just rearranged the lights a little bit. And then in here is that electric poly, right? This is the light that is not supposed to feel like a light, but it sort of does feel like a light, doesn't it? And that's the balancing act. It's like, oh, does it feel like a light? Kind of. But you would do this shot, and we did this shot the same way we did the wide, is we set the frame first. Like, what do we want in the background? Because we haven't seen over here, we can slide the sofa left or right, forward or backward, and you're never going to notice the difference. So we set to that mood. And we come back here, and now you can see way more crunchy. Way more crunchy. And this thing has just appeared out of nowhere. Now, why has it appeared out of nowhere? It was supposed to be over there more. Anybody? Why has it appeared there now? Because it looks way better. Imagine if this was all flat like this. There'd be no interest. But here, we're going for like some weird Mr. Robot frame. It's like, this is the idea. And then we punch the neg in, and we use the backlight from the window itself, and we use our little source 4 spot number to do this, and we got ourselves a frame, right? We're just slowly maneuvering the elements that are already in the room and trying to make the best of it. Now, you can't do any of this stuff, though, if you screw up the blocking here relative to the key. Right? If you don't know what you're going to be doing for coverage, very hard to then set, okay, well, where is safe? Well, safe is, I have to tell everybody in the team, like, you can put anything you want this side of this shear. All right, we're never going to look over there. So the only solution that we have to come up with is, well, what are we going to do for the return bounce on this guy? If we can come up with some sort of sales gimmick that will say, well, it'll just return bounce. And you're like, will it? And this is the look like you give the gaffer, like, just don't say anything. Like, just put up the light. And so for this guy's, I think this was the still for this shot, right? That's the setup. So why did I, because the shear was like this, why did I drape it over here? Anybody? Anybody? Because if Old Mate is sitting here, he's got his shoulders this way. His shoulder and the back of his head are going to be too hot from the light outside if I don't pull this over. So this is just, again, me softening it real quick. I asked somebody, does anybody have a clip? I just clip it to the window, and then that takes down this level. See that level there? That's what I'm looking for. I'm like, ooh, do I like it? Do I like it 2 stops over? Probably not. Do I like it at key? Yes, I like it better at key. So let's use the 2-stop shear that we have, and let's just drag it across the window. Does that sound like a plan? And everybody goes, yep, sounds good. And there you can see our electric poly going through the magic cloth. You can see our over-engineered dolly. You can see our source 4 going into the background back there. And that amount of haze. What else? Do we have anything else in here? No, I think that was it. Only thing I will say is on this job, I forgot my ultralight arm. And, oh man, Noga arms and me, this is just, I can't be having these on set. This is not my thing. If you make Noga arms, if you're a Noga arm manufacturer, I feel bad saying this, but it's horrible. Give me the ultralight arms every time, all the time. Never moves. Perfect. I don't know what to say. And this is also like my preferred order of operation. Give me the ultrabright, my 703. Give me small little mon out. I don't need much. That's it. And I think that was the whole thing, right? What is that doing down there? I think we might have had that poly on standby because we tried to get this shot with a poly. And it's like, this is where the speed though comes in, because it's like, I'm sure on the tech scout, we would have been like, oh, and then this shot, I mean, this is me talking, like, oh, you know, we'll just use a poly and bounce back a little bit of level. And the gaffer's looking at me like, dude, you're a space cadet. You have no idea. That's not going to return near as much level. And he doesn't say that to me, but I go, you know, a little poly. And in his mind, he's going, okay, Patrick, I see. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's going to want something more powerful than a poly. And so he fixes my lack of knowledge in the lighting department and just says, well, let's bring in a light and we'll call it an electric poly. And then Patrick feels good that he called for the right thing when in fact he called for the wrong thing. So that we probably would have tried poly and gone, ooh, not good enough. Why? Because I probably would have gone, well, this is too hot now. So we're going to have to pull that curtain over, which kills all of the level that is hitting the poly. And then that's the excuse that I would tell to the gaffer and been like, see, my poly would have worked, but I didn't like that level in the backlight. So we have to use your light. And then they just keep it around for me. It's like, makes me feel good. Like, see, we did use the poly. We did. Okay, that's that scene. You move on to something else for the rest of the day. A couple cappuccinos, and you're laughing. Okay, that's going to do it for this one. Many thanks. We will see you in the next one. Goodbye.